Sharon Creech is a Newbery Award-winning author. She has written several young adult novels as well as a few picture books. She grew up in Ohio in a suburb of Cleveland and grew up with, it was a noisy family with 3 brothers and a sister. She often writes about her experiences in stories, like in Absolutely Normal Chaos. The brothers in that story are named the same as her own. In the summer, they normally took vacations as a family to Wisconsin, sometimes to Kentucky to visit cousins. She states that, "When I was young, I wanted to be many things when I grew up: a painter, an ice skater, a singer, a teacher, and a reporter. It soon became apparent that I had little drawing talent, very limited tolerance for falling on ice, and absolutely no ability to stay on key while singing. I also soon learned that I would make a terrible reporter, because when I didn't like the facts, I changed them. It was in college when I took literature and writing courses that I became intrigued by storytelling. Later, I was a teacher in England and in Switzerland. While teaching great literature, I learned so much about writing, about what makes a story interesting, and about techniques of plot and characterization and point of view." Walk Two Moons was the first book that was published in America, and it also won the Newbery Award. She was thrilled and quite surprised that it received this award. Sharon is married and has a son named Rob and a daughter named Karen. Spending time and traveling with her family is what she enjoys most. They love going up to the cabin and fishing and going out on the kayaks. In an interview, the question was, "Where do you get your ideas?" Sharon's response was, "This is a hard question to answer because a book contains not one, but hundreds, maybe thousands of little ideas. Often it seems as if the main character and the place just arrive in my head one day, but later I can see that perhaps they arrived there because I'd been thinking about my family or someone I'd seen at a bus stop. Many ideas in Walk Two Moons came from a single fortune cookie message: 'Don't judge a man until you've walked 2 moons in his moccasins.' From that came the ideas of a journey, walking long, and of Native American heritage and of people not being what they might at first seem to be. With The Wanderer, the idea to take characters on a sailing journey came from my own daughter's journey across the Atlantic, and Bloomability grew out of the time that my husband, children, and I spent in Switzerland." You can go to her website at www.sharoncreech.com, and for each book she has listed a summary of the book and also the means by which the inspiration came around for her writing that story. This is useful for students since they can go to this website and see what a writer and their process is for writing a story. I find this website very useful, and students would find it useful for an author study as well, or if they're interested in wondering about how she came about the ideas she did. A Fine Fine School 2001, this story is about a principal who loves his school so much that he decides that school needs to be more often. They need to add school on Saturdays and Sundays, and then he extends it into vacations and summers. Well, as you might think, the students and staff don't want to be in school that often, but they don't know how to tell their lovely principal, who loves them so much, that they don't want to be there as often as he does. So it's up to Tilly, the main character, to decide how to tell him that although that they love school and they love that school and it's a wonderful school that he has built, they just don't want to be there just as long as he would like them to be. Who's That Baby is another picture book that was published in 2005 by Sharon Creech. It was actually written from an idea that she was making for her granddaughter. She had taken her pictures and was writing songs and poems to go along with the pictures by guessing of what she thought that her granddaughter might have been thinking at that time. So this book is full of songs and poems. Most of them are from the point of view of the child, kind of going into the world of what that child might be thinking if we could look inside that baby's heads. So there's a wide variety in this book. There's for grandmas, grandpas, moms, dads. Fishing in the Air was published in 2003. It's another picture book that's about a little boy and his dad going on a fishing trip. And instead of going fishing for fish, they're going to a lake, but the idea is to learn how to fish in the air like his dad does, taking in the breeze and the sights. And so throughout the day, they talk about his father's childhood memories and where he used to live. And in the end, they did not catch any fish, but he did learn how to fish in the air. Absolutely Normal Chaos was published in 2008, and this story is written in the form of a journal of a 13-year-old Mary Lou Finney, and she grows up in what she considers normal chaos of her three brothers and her younger sister, and this actually reflects Sharon Creech's life, as the brothers actually have the same names as her brothers, and so her country cousin, comes to town and not only adds to the chaos, but he also brings some mystery alongside with him into this crazy house that she calls normal. Bloomability was published in 1998. It is about a 13-year-old girl named Dinny, and as she claims, she has been kidnapped and whisked away to a boarding school in Switzerland where she doesn't want to be. She's angry, she's away from her friends and her family, and she is mad that they made her go there. But in the end, she learns to love the country and the people there. And this was actually written because of Sharon Creech's experience when she lived in Switzerland. So a lot of her reason for writing this book was from her experiences in Switzerland when she lived there. Love That Dog was published in 2003. This story is about a boy named Jack, and it takes you across an entire school year. And at first, he really does not like to write, and he thinks that poetry is really stupid. And his poems in the beginning are really short and kind of sarcastic, like I Tried, Brains Empty. His teacher, Mrs. Stretchberry, gives him lots of inspiring work to read, and this is the journey of him and his growing love for poetry as he continues throughout the school year. And the poems that he reads helps him find his own words and to find a love of poetry. Hate That Cat was published in 2009, and it continues the story of Jack from Love That Dog. And it's the next school year, and his teacher has actually followed him along to that next school year, that grade up, and he's excited because he thinks that she knows how his mind works. And so she continues to provide them with really good quality, enticing poetry to get the students interested and compelled to write poetry. So this is his journey continued. Heartbeat was published in 2005. It is a complex story about a young girl, Annie, who's 12 years old. A lot is changing around her. Her grandfather's getting old, her mother's now pregnant, and her friend, Max, is quite moody. And so this story is written in free verse, and it shows the relationship between Annie and Max and her mother and how these relationships are changing. And also as she deals with complex ideas like how are people unique, but yet how are they alike? How do we find out who we are? Those types of really deep questions that children, once they hit their teen years, tend to start to answer. Walk to Moons was published in 1994. It is about a story of a young girl named Salamanca, and it is the story of her journey to go and try to find her mother. She's riding across country to Idaho to with her grandparents to find her mother who left. And so in the car, in the process, she's telling various stories, and kind of behind the scenes, she's telling the story, her own story, not just other people's stories that seem to be being told.